Hello and welcome to this week's VR Vertigo. Something a bit more personal from me. And that is VR and depression. Not that VR not that VR gives you depression. Quite the opposite, in fact. VR can help, or at least in my case, I found it helped with my depression. Now, I've been a long time sufferer, and to watch me doing these videos, you might not think that I have such an issue, but I do. And when it comes around, it can be quite debilitating. But like so many things in life, if you have it long enough and you're lucky, then you find ways to help yourself. And that brings me to the subject of today's video. And that is how I found VR helped me with my depression. Now, to be clear, I didn't go looking for assistance with my depression from VR. I'm just an interested tech head. VR has been something that I've been into, well, ever since movies from back in the 80s, like The Lawnmower Man, etc. And so when VR came around, well, it was a bit of a no-brainer, frankly. Now, quite some time ago, when I got the PSVR 1, I was considering playing Skyrim VR, but I was having a particularly difficult time at the time. And one day I just thought to myself, look, I've got to do something else. I can't just like stare at the walls or just think about the things I'm going to do and not do them. Let me just try and do something in order to take my mind off it. And it was literally that simple. When I'm in depression, and since my depression, I've not been able to read books. I spent about 5 years not being able to listen to music. That was terrible. Happily, since then, I've gotten back into music, and it's a great comfort. And who knew? VR might do the same. Now, I'm not one of these people who frowns on placebos or the placebo effect. I think it's medicine. It's as legitimate as anything else. If a doctor gives you a drug which is just a sugar pill, but it makes you feel better, then it's made you feel better. That's medicine. And I found that VR in some ways was the same kind of thing. I wasn't ingesting anything to help me with my chemical imbalances, which I think we believe now are responsible for depressions. I put on a VR headset. That became my medicine. Now, to be clear, it wasn't entirely my medicine, that's ridiculous, but it became a facet of it, an aspect of me feeling low, recognizing when I was starting to feel low and deciding if I play a VR game and my vertigo allows it, that's another issue that I have. I suffer from vertigo and tinnitus. I've got a gammy knee, I've got 2 pins in my ankle, and I've got a bit of an iffy respiratory system. Now, to get back on track, putting on the PSVR 1 headset and travelling to Skyrim, I suppose would be a great way of putting it, was just wonderful. You go into a world which isn't your own. And contrary to what I started to think when this became apparent to me, VR and depression, you're not running away from the world you live in. That just can't happen. It doesn't happen. You're cognizant of the fact that you're going to take off the headset and your life is still around you. But it's my belief that the attitude that you have when you're in depression and putting on a headset in order to distract oneself from one's current issues, from the feeling that you're having at that particular time, is in fact a real and true thing. It's a real and true benefit. And you see and hear the wonderful reality that the developers have made for you. It's hard not to feel moved. It's hard not to feel engaged. And I found that when I first did this, most of my time was spent in Skyrim, just wandering about. My favourite areas are the green areas with grasses and trees and flowers and the birds singing and the sound of water rushing by. And it is possible to stay out of trouble for extended periods of time in Skyrim. You don't have to go fighting and rampaging. At a time when I felt I couldn't leave the house when it was all a bit too much, Skyrim was my outside. The sounds of nature all around you, the sun shining in the sky, the lush grass, and the large open vistas of an ancient, unspoilt and fantastical world were all around me. And you could spend quite some time just looking and soaking everything in. Your brain will quite happily fool you enough that you can become quite contented in those worlds. And in the distance across the valleys, you'll sometimes hear the large roar of a dragon. And if you're lucky, you can look up and you'll find it there in the sky, flying around. It truly is magical. That's when I realized magic was what my depression needed. And it turned out I wasn't afraid to take off the headset to return to my reality. I'd spent some time in the realm of Skyrim. I felt satisfied. I felt sated. And I could take off the headset and return to my reality and be left with that sense of calm, that sense of wonder that I'd experienced whilst in Skyrim. And there are many locations to visit within the realm. So many villages and so many people, each with their own stories. And for the most part, they don't judge, as long as you're not part of the Thieves Guild. You can have these game conversations with the people who inhabit Skyrim, as you're inhabiting Skyrim. And at a time where I couldn't face music and I couldn't read a book, I could put on a headset and I could go and visit somewhere from the comfort of my own living room. The power of gaming to heal and help individuals on many different levels has been, I think, at least proven time and time again. I remember seeing an incredible post by the Destiny 1 team at the end of the game where they'd brought together a compilation of magical moments from the game's history. And it was enough to bring a tear to your eye. I'm not joking. The one I remember really clearly is one character proposing to another. That was really special. Gaming is a salve. It's a balm. It's a sticking plaster, and it's a full cure, depending on what you need. It's an escape. It's a defeat. It's a triumph. It's a world you can go to and inhabit depending on your preference of games, mine being open world, in order to take you out of your current reality. And when you've had enough and decide to go back to your reality, it can leave you a whole lot better off than when you went in. There's no denying that the art, the creative process, the time and the effort spent in creating, we're using Skyrim in this particular instance as our example, in creating that world, is somehow reflected literally upon you and within you when you enter those worlds, in a way that being a flat screen gamer doesn't quite achieve. Now, I'm not saying flat screen gaming doesn't help people. It does. But for me, my personal experience, going into the world as opposed to just witnessing the world on a flat screen as you're playing, makes all the difference. When my vertigo allows me to play in VR, I can tell you, as someone who's experienced it firsthand, it has helped my depression. A long time ago, I learned to recognize my black dog, and rather than shoo it away, I learned to welcome it in. I learned to say to it, you pick yourself a spot by the fire, you get warm, and you stay there where I can see you. For me, gaming helped me realize that I have to coexist with my depression, and that in itself is a large part of mitigating against the condition. But for those of you out there who are watching this, who've clicked on it because depression is an issue for you, do consider gaming if you can't concentrate on a book or listen to music. I found VR helped me. And from here, my own small corner of the internet, I want to issue a personal thanks to all the developers who've taken the time and effort to develop for such a transformative technology. I, for one, owe you a debt of gratitude. And I think maybe other gamers might also feel the same way. So if you're out there and you have the black dog about you, And whether you're a gamer or not, please keep your chin up.